The anti-life equation recently made a huge appearance in Zack Snyder's Justice League, leaving many to ponder what it is and how exactly Darkseid intends to use it. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. Today we're going to dive into the ominous consequences of the anti-life equation's appearance in the Snyder Cut, and what it could mean if we continue along this route in terms of the DCEU, as we count down the top 10 things you need to know about the anti-life equation. Join me as we explore what it is, where it's from, how it can be used, and how we've seen our heroes rise up against it before in the past. It's time to grab our scientific calculators and our graph paper and put on our math caps and get calculating as well as get counting. Number 10. Rewrites your will. First things first, let's explain why it's important for us to understand the anti-life equation at all. What is at stake here? What are we up against? Well, with the anti-life equation, basically we're facing the end of life as we know it, but not really through death, through worse means. Instead of it killing you in the comics, it's been shown to rewrite your will after you're exposed to it, basically zapping you of freedoms, love, and individual thoughts and motivations. It takes your will to live and kinda just gets rid of it, and in its place you become an empty shell, a puppet, which Darkseid can then repurpose and remold, turning you into merely a cog in his grand design for entire control and domination over not just your world and you, but all of existence. Basically, you now live for Darkseid and nothing else, and you are not happy about it, but you're also not sad or angry either. You're just left kinda empty, a husk of your former self. Number 9. Conquer all of existence. The thing is, in the DCEU and in general, when it comes to Darkseid's purpose in the multiverse, he doesn't just want to use the anti-life equation to conquer all the world and even all of existence. Using the anti-life equation, Darkseid would become unstoppable and be able to take control of worlds with much less effort, terraforming and colonizing planets in the blink of an eye, without anyone being able to rise up against him. In the blink of an eye, or the snap of the fingers, if you will. That is how powerful the anti-life equation is. It leaves those who would oppose Darkseid without the will to do so. This means that the potential for what he could conquer and how far he could stretch his empire would essentially be limitless when it comes to the cosmos. There are no boundaries because there is nothing to stop his expansion and his influence. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are enjoying this list and you want more lists like it where we talk about Darkseid, the anti-life equation, and potentially some other crazy stuff that he's done, be sure to give it a thumbs up. It really does help us out. Number 8. Rebuild existence in his image. In conquering all of these various planets, his overall objective is to destroy all of existence and reality so that he can remake it in his own image, where he will then reign supreme as all of existence's most revered god. So yes, in the DCEU especially, we're not just talking about annihilation or domination, we are talking about a whole shift in all of existence where it will be adjusted and governed as Darkseid sees fit. He doesn't just want to control everything, he wants to reshape everything too. Number 7. Deceased. If you're wondering what the world would look like if Darkseid succeeded in his mission to unleash the anti-life equation on Earth, one of the worlds and stories you can turn to for an idea of that is Deceased. In Deceased, however, this isn't normal exposure to the anti-life equation that we're dealing with. Instead, various heroes and people of Earth were exposed to a corrupted version of the anti-life equation, and as a result became zombie-like creatures referred to as the anti-living. With the anti-living, they are consumed by the desire to spread their corruption, becoming more violent and aggressive. Here, they either kill those uninfected they come into contact with, or infect them. Hence, the anti-living and the equation that infected them spread at an increased rate, causing mayhem, destruction, and death basically all around the globe, turning Earth into a post-apocalyptic world. That's their version of Marvel's Zombieverse. Or vice versa. Marvel's Zombieverse is a version of the Deceased. Basically, zombies. Everyone gets zombies. Yay, zombies for everyone. Number 6. It's math. If you're wondering what exactly the anti-life equation is, you're not alone. Like many concepts within DC, especially those of a more spacey origin that have been touched by the likes of Jack Kirby and additionally defined and expanded upon by writers like Grant Morrison, we are talking about something that can feel a bit intangible for fans of DC seeking to understand it better. Initially, the anti-life equation was believed to give those who understood it the power to dominate all life, and these people that were exposed to it were considered not alive after their exposure because someone else basically had control over them. So you weren't really acting of your own free will. In other words, you weren't really alive, but you also weren't really dead. But if you're wondering what exactly the anti-life equation is, it's just that. A math equation. As time went on, the anti-life equation would become more defined and explained in comics, with examples being given of not just how and why it worked, but also the actual math behind it in terms of the equation itself. Number 5. The equation. So, what is the equation? After all, this is math, right? So, can I see it? Can I write it down? Can I try to solve it? Is it just a bunch of numbers that I can read out and discover? Is it an actual physical equation at all? And what did that runic pattern shown in Zack Snyder's Justice League mean when it comes to the equation that we saw in the DCEU? How do you even read that pattern? How is that math? Well, in the comics, the equation isn't really so patterned, but in the DCEU, this more mysterious appearance of it could be meant to represent or symbolize just how hard it is to understand and even read. In fact, in the comics, the first challenge presented to those who seek it out is to even figure out the equation to begin with, because it's not something that was written as a runic pattern anywhere. However, it's not as visually patterned when it does appear usually. Instead, it's composed of a series of words or letters, or more specifically variables, which once solved for, give you the answer to the anti-life equation and basically grant you power over those that you expose to it. The equation as it stands from the comics is known to be loneliness plus alienation plus fear plus despair plus self-worth divided by mockery divided by condemnation divided by misunderstanding multiplied by guilt multiplied by shame multiplied by failure multiplied by judgment, n which is equal to y, where y which is equal to hope, and n which is equal to folly, love which is equal to lies, life which is equal to death, self which is equal to Darkseid, or dark side. Did you get all that? I feel like I need a whole math class on this equation, to be real. Number 4. Applied math. So if you have the equation and you're able to figure out the answer, are you then unstoppable? Can you use the anti-life equation? Not exactly. Think of the anti-life equation like the Infinity Gauntlet in the MCU. In order for you to wield the power of it, you need to not only be able to figure out the equation and be smart enough to solve it, but you also have to have the power and the will to use it properly. In other words, you need to be good at not just the understanding of the math, but you have to be a master of applied anti-life math as well. Being able to actually plug in variables, know where to pull them from, and then have the actual strength in order to use it, as it does take a lot out of most people, draining their own life energy and their power. It's only because Darkseid is both so smart, capable, ruthless, and powerful himself that he is able to utilize the anti-life equation in this way, where he can conquer so effectively, efficiently, and quickly with it. Number 3. The power of love and freedom. During the events of Final Crisis in DC Comics, we also get a glimpse of how the anti-life equation can be beaten or fought against, namely through a few different methods. At one point, Barry Allen ends up returning to the continuity after traveling through time to discover that everyone on Earth pretty much has been taken over by the anti-life equation, including his one true love, Iris. He manages to get through to Iris with a lot of willpower and a lot of love. Love's true kiss breaking through the anti-life equation's hold. However, this method would be ultimately harder to employ, as finding love in a world ruled by anti-life without some outside influence who already feels that way is kind of near impossible. The other way that Earth manages to fight back is when a resistance group learns of a symbol belonging to the new Genesis alphabet that basically means freedom, which seems to counter the effects of the equation, freeing those ensnared by its influence. So you can be exposed to that symbol, that letter, or you can I guess just kiss someone. Guess, true love's kiss breaks all the spells. Number 2. Life equation. It's important to note that the inspiration for the anti-life equation actually came to Darkseid after he discovered the people of Mars, Martian Manhunter's alien race, actually had a philosophy that they referred to as the life equation. Upon learning of the life equation, Darkseid reasoned that if there was a life equation, there must exist a reverse or anti-equivalent to it, such as the anti-life equation. Interested in the idea of what that anti-life equation could do, Darkseid set out to find it so that he might use it to bring about the opposite effects of the life equation, which promoted the ideas of free will and finding one's own intrinsic purpose in life and the cosmos. So yeah, the anti-life equation was about as Bad as you can imagine, because it's the opposite of that. Number 1. White lanterns. White lanterns basically harness the power of the life equation with their rings. In fact, it has been said before that white lantern rings hold within them the life equation. So if you're wondering how Zack Snyder's final battle with Darkseid would have gone down, and how or why lanterns, green or otherwise, could be involved, we could see something similar to the Blackest Night storyline, where they all need to come together in order to unlock the power of creation in life with the white lantern rings, in order to fight back against the anti-life equation. And so that's how the lanterns can connect to the anti-life equation. Yay! That's my equation for today. Fitting them in. What are some of your favorite tidbits about the anti-life equation? Are you hoping we'll get to see the story Snyder started continue, and we'll get to experience the threat of anti-life ourselves? What are some other stories involving Darkseid from the comics or the animated universe that you would love to see explored in the films? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you as always to stay nerdy, YouTube.